I don't know if they wanted to hear from me. I felt like I should have been more prepared. But it was good. Yeah. I think it's just some other thoughts on how we can change
Okay.
things around. Make an adjustment. Oh, wait, no, you ready?
You can go.
We can?
Yep.
We can.
Yep.
At 6:30 PM, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And Whitney, if we can please have a roll call.
Commissioner Brewer,
Here.
Commissioner McDaniel,
Here.
Commissioner McCowan. Here. Commissioner Jablonski,
Here.
Commissioner Byrd,
Here.
Commissioner McClure, Commissioner Griffith,
Here.
Commissioner Kindle,
Here.
and Commissioner Parker.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We don't have any consent items today, so moving to non-consent items, reading items 1 and 2 together. Item number 1, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance O-2324-48, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, amending Section 36-201 of the Code of the City of Norman so as to remove part of the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 7, Township 8 North, Range 2 west of the Indian Meridian, Cleveland County, Oklahoma, from the A2 Rural Agricultural District and place the same in the RM6 Medium Density Apartment District of said city and providing for the severability thereof, 716 Sonia Drive. And item number 2, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of PP-2324-17, consideration of a preliminary plat submitted by Aaron Booley, Pete Jackson, and Dagan Flowers, SMC Consulting Engineers, PC, for the Old Dairy Farm for 1.13 acres of property located at 716 Sonia Drive. And do we have a staff presentation?
Hello, my name is Justin Fish with the Planning Department. We have an application from Aaron Bewley, Pete Jackson, and Dagan Flowers to rezone the above property, 716 Sonia Drive, from A2 Rural Agricultural District to RM6 Medium Density Apartment District. The property is currently vacant and was once a dairy farm. The proposal involves the construction of a detention pond and 2 apartment buildings. These apartment buildings will have an estimated 4 units each with 6 bedrooms per unit. Right here shows the existing land use in relation to where the subject tract is located. Here is the existing land use. An overhead aerial of the subject lot. A picture facing north of the lot. A picture facing south. A picture facing east. And a picture facing west. And an overhead of the subject lot. A site plan showing the buildings in relation to where the parking will be. Staff forwards this request for rezoning from A2 Rural Agricultural District to RM6 Medium Density Apartment District to Planning Commission for consideration. Staff is available for questions, and the applicant is also here for questions.
Thank you. Any questions by commission for staff?
I have a couple questions. My first is, can you show us on the map where that sewer line is? I didn't quite see it.
So the sewer line is located kind of in the middle of the parking lot. It's easier to see on the map in the packet.
Was that it?
This map right here best shows.
I
This
see it
line.
now. Thank you. And then my other question for staff is, can you tell me where the nearest park is, since they're going to do fee in lieu of?
I do not currently have that information, or where the closest park is.
It's on this page.
I missed that, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions by commission for staff? Seeing none, I'd take the applicant presentation.
Evening, Commissioners. Chris Anderson with SMC Consulting Engineers. We also have Pete Jackson with the Developers Group. Don't have another presentation. We have read the staff report and agree with the city's recommendation to take the project forward, and be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions by commission for the applicant? Could you just, for sake of highlighting why the orientation is to put the parking in the front? I heard some comments from pre-development that explained that project, and I think that might be helpful to hear again here.
Yeah, it has to do with the invisible sewer line that you were asking about that runs right through that front area. It precludes putting into the units in that area.
And would you maybe also address any buffering considerations with the neighbor along Sonia Drive?
The existing Sonia Drive has a cross-access easement there. There will be some islands there on the parking lot that will have some landscaping in them. Other than that, not a lot of buffering directly on the north side. We have a detention pond on the south side. The site gently drains from north to south, so that's kind of where that had to be.
And would you just clarify any improvements that will be made to Sonia Drive specifically as part of your development?
Yeah, it's, again, just a private drive. It'd be basically entry into the parking lot area and also serving the existing houses there. It will go all the way to the west property line. That was requested in the DRT meeting from city staff comments. And right now we are planning to put it in with a gutter. So, but again, it's not to public street standards, but a private drive.
I have a question. The letter that we had received from the Potts family regarding the request about an 8-foot privacy fence and a couple signage issues, no through street, dead end, and a speed limit minimum sign. Have those been considered as concessions to the neighbor?
Ask Pete to come up and address those.
Okay.
If you could address the paved driveway apron request along with that was in the same letter.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
That same letter referred to paved driveway aprons?
Yes.
If you can address
sure.
all 5 of
Yeah.
the numbered items in that letter.
Okay, so everything that they were asking for in the letter, we're willing to do. The only thing, with the only exception being the speed limit sign, it's so close to our driveway that didn't, I don't know if that meets any kind of traffic guideline, but the idea for a fence, landscaping, buffering, the approaches to their driveway, a dead-end street or some kind of a no-through access, all of that made sense. And then paving the road to the west end, we would be willing to do that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions by commission for the applicant?
Yeah, I'll just ask one real quick. So it looks like you have to take out some large trees. That's development, I understand. But on this plan, I see a huge heat sink in a parking lot. I was wondering, are you all planning to put in any trees to try and mitigate the heat in summer with that parking lot?
Yes. Yeah, we're definitely planning to plant new trees in the islands and different places where we can, for sure. There may be some trees, especially around the perimeter, that we can save. So the ones in the middle are right where things go, unfortunately. So,
Thank you.
There was a pecan tree that came up in question. Is that a perimeter or a central tree?
no, it's under one of the buildings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
We
you for
checked into that.
clarifying.
We were honestly, I was really hoping it would be, oops, I'm sorry, behind it or away from it, but it happened to be right where the building goes.
Thank you for clarifying.
With the historical significance of that tree, did you look into, I imagine it is not inexpensive, but I just want to know if you did look into considerations of saving the tree and moving it to an alternative place say, an island that you're going to be putting in on this property since it is a part of historical significance?
I don't know a way of moving trees that, it's huge. So I don't know of a way to move a tree like that. So,
Okay, but no reaching out to arborists or anything?
no.
Okay. And you did say yes to the fence, correct?
Yes,
All right, I don't have any other questions.
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions by commission for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I would move to audience comments. And we have a few up here. First, I'll call Sonia Potts. And just a reminder, when you come up to the microphone, if you will start by saying your name and address, and then there'll be 3 minutes. If you want a 30-second warning when your time is about to be up, let me know. Otherwise, I'll yield the full time to you.
Sonia Potts, 3620 Barwick Drive. The only question I really have, which my husband will probably address also, is one question is the percentage of impervious surface that's going to be in the hole in that addition. It looks like it's not supposed to be more than 65% impervious. So I just wondered what those numbers are looking like right now. And of course, we're always, because we've been involved in other, where there are other developments that affect our land, that we've been before the Planning Commission and City Council before. And so we're always really concerned about the stormwater drainage and just what the detention pond is going to look like and that type thing. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Potts?
Kevin Potts, 3620 Barwick Drive. Pretty much my wife Sonia stated my concerns. I actually grew up farming for the first 20 years. I worked the farm with my family, hands-on. And so it's hard for me to see apartments still. We used to have cattle, horses, all kinds of animals just running around, and it's just the whole situation. So I've got to address that. That's progress, they call it. But my biggest concerns, like Sonia said, is this making sure the stormwater is mitigated, it's done right. Because I've seen, just being around town and some other properties, we have serious damage going on, and it's just I know it's a big problem in Norman, and we got to address it. And I just want to see the streets going in, and all of a sudden we're having stormwater drainage problems. So I just want to make sure it's mitigated, watching the impervious surface versus the pervious surface, and making sure the detention pond size properly to handle it so it doesn't affect adjacent properties. And a lot of times we see stuff goes on through planning, but you get to the end of the project and it doesn't quite end up that way. Retaining walls and stuff, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. But in the past developments, I've seen things, and my family's seen things that didn't happen and didn't quite get done. Things would happen in the process of getting it approved, but the final job was not quite what it started out to be. So I'm concerned about that, and I trust that, Pete and Dagan, they'll take care of business. I hope they will. And also, it is sad. There's some huge sycamore trees and pecan trees that are down on that property. If you just, especially Aunt Sonia and her husband, my Uncle Joe, planted years ago, you hate to see those go. I mean, I don't know, what are they, 50, 60 years old probably? And it's just, that's tough. But again, I'd like to see those somehow preserved, somehow the parking lot, some of them lay right, and Pete kind of said he'd try to see what they could do when they're developing that, see if they can make some adjustments. And it's just an important part of this the landscape down there. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Audra Carr?
Thank you. Audra Potts Carr, 709 Sonia Drive. First of all, I want to say thank you for reading my letter and taking my concerns to heart. I appreciate your response. I wish it was okay, if it was possible to save a pecan tree that big, but unfortunately, it's too big to move. an oak tree maybe, but not a pecan. The planning department and the builders have addressed a lot of our concerns. A lot of the issues have already been addressed, such as lighting. We're concerned about light pollution and directional lighting, and I hope that's being addressed for security and but then also we don't want things, shining straight on our property. And I know that's probably already a consideration. Secondly, the houses on our property are still at this point on well water. I think we're probably the only house in North in Norman that are in the Norman proper that are still on well water. So water pollution is a major concern. I urge the builders to address that in their, as much as possible, coming off of their parking lot, in their retention area, to also use that as a bioswale, to do biological filtration as much as possible. I just want to say it is sad to see the family farm go once and for all. It's the last little bit of Norman history. So thank you very much I appreciate your concerns.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'd move to Planning Commission discussion. Never a bad time to throw this in a public comment, but if you weren't aware, More Norman Technology has a wood turners association, and they will pick up wood for free. They will come pick it up if you call them. So for a historical tree, they are always looking for wood and specific historical wood. They use that for practicing and for making things. So if there's not another use for the wood, it is a place that it can be used. I don't know if a pecan tree can be grafted, but maybe also working with your neighbors if they might like an opportunity to work with an arborist to graft some of those historic trees for themselves too. Might be a nice opportunity. It's More Norman Technology has a wood turners, I'm butchering all of this, but they have a wood turning class and they have like a wood turners association, and they will come pick up wood. So if a tree has been cut down, they'll get it, which might even save a developer a cost, but it puts the wood to a use if there's not another use.
I have a question, I think a follow-up question for staff. In this zoning, what are the percentages for impervious that are allowed? 65? Does this fall within 65%?
I personally have not looked at it, but it will be reviewed when the application comes in. But the engineers shaking their head yes, and the planners also saying yeah. But it would be reviewed when it comes for a building permit anyway, and we would be calculating all of that.
Thank you.
I also have a question. Will there be any attempt to use like a bioswale or rain gardens to help filter the stormwater?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that was actually brought up. If you look at the way the pond's designed, there's a long finger running along the west property line. That's actually what we had talked about, was using bioswale area there. And also there's another finger that kind of sticks out to the east, and we first saw those as bioswale areas.
My eyes can't see that, so thank you.
Okay.
I have a quick question for the family. Is your dad John Potts? Is your dad John Potts?
My father was Andrew John Potts Jr.
Okay.
John, they call him John D., John Dwayne Potts. And
I-
then their dad was Andrew John Potts Sr. They got my name listed as a junior. I'm not a junior, I'm just a Kevin John.
I think I knew him like 20 years ago. So. I don't, old farmer in overalls and drove a purple F-250. Well, he was a good guy.
Okay. Any other discussion on this item by Planning Commission? Seeing none, I would take a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
And a vote?
You can now vote. All votes have been casted, and the motion passes 6-2.
Thank you. Moving to our next item, number 3, consideration of approval, acceptance, rejection, amendment, and/or postponement of ordinance number O-2324-52, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Norman, Oklahoma, closing public alleyways adjacent to Block 1 of State University addition to Norman, Cleveland County, Oklahoma, and providing for the severability thereof adjacent to 221 Eddington Street. And staff presentation.
Okay, I'm Todd McClellan. I'm the development engineer for the city of Norman. I'm trying to figure out how to page down. Here we go. Okay, this is for the closure of an alley. It's at the east end of Eddington Street, and it runs in a northwest direction. And it's currently a 20-foot platted right-of-way. There is no physical alley in it. However, it does have a City of Norman 16-inch water main in it. So we have no objection to the applicant requesting to close and vacate the alley as long as they provide a easement for our 16-inch water line. So again, we do not object to this, and so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Is there plan to like put grass instead of, I'm assuming if it's an alley that it's,
Yes, you'd
pavement?
probably be better off to ask the applicant
Okay.
what his plans are. I mean, he wants to make it part of his property.
Can you address the alley that was already closed near here too? And just kind of give that for
Yeah.
context.
At the north end, you see that little bit of alley that's running east-west. That's a leftover from a part of the 10-foot remaining alley. The rest of it was closed by a previous closure and vacation when they built the apartment complex there to the west. So as you can see, there is no connection there to the north anyway, other than those people's parking lot.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one more question. Did the city hear back from all the utilities?
Yes, yes. I believe there was Cox and OEC in the alley, and neither one of them objected.
Any other questions for staff by commission? Seeing none, I take the applicant presentation.
Hello, I am Libby Smith with Rieger Law Group on behalf of the applicant. And with me is Gunnar Joyce with Rieger Law Group and Keith McCabe, the applicant. So this is a request to close the right-of-way. You can see outlined in red, tract A, that's the 20-foot right-of-way, and then outlined in and blue, that is the 10-foot alley to the north left over. This is a more detailed view where you can see that 20-foot alleyway and then the leftover 10-foot alleyway. You can also see where that north alleyway was to the north that has already been closed by the neighbor. So this doesn't really provide through access anyway. This is another aerial showing that existing city water main that runs through that east tract A. The applicant will provide an easement once they go through the district court process, so that water main will stay where it is. And then this is the street view. You can kind of see where that tract A would run parallel to the train tracks, and tract B is kind of back in those trees. There's an existing duplex on the property, and then the rest is vacant. This is what the final lot will look like once we have finished going through city council and close the easement, and then go through the district court process to vacate and return title to the alleyways back to the owner. And then the applicant is going to come back to the city and request a lot line adjustment to make this all into one lot, and it's currently 4 lots. So City will support the request once we grant them that easement in district court, which we plan to do. None of the other utilities have objected. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant by commission?
I have a quick one. Like, what's the benefit? Because I assume you can't build on top of that water main, or am I wrong?
So we'll grant an easement. I don't think we can build a building, but we could have access to the parking lot behind a building since this is in city center form-based code.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Moving to, I guess we have audience comments. Any audience comments for this item? Seeing none, moving to Planning Commission discussion. Just as a point of clarification, there is a few steps that happen when you have old alleys. Alleys typically exist from a plat. This plat was probably filed around 1908 based on my history. It'd be approximately early 1900s. So there are lots of alleys throughout Norman that may not actually be paved alleys, to answer Commissioner Kendall's question. So there are a lot of them that are grass currently and aren't being used as an alley, but they legally could be an alley, and that is the public right-of-way component. So the city can close the public right-of-way component, and then you have a judicial process because the city could technically reopen their right-of-way until they go through court. And then the court names the city, and that's how you finally kind of extinguish an alley. So it's a whole process to this. There are lots of these alleys around Center City. Things that are kind of interesting about that too is you saw we've already vacated an alley just adjacent to it. These probably would not have also been vacated at the same time because as a property owner, you have to have joining property owners for anybody adjoining those lots. So there's nobody on the other side other than the railroad of this one, but had there been like a property owner on the other side, they would have had to join to fully vacate it, or they could only vacate the portion that abutted them. So usually we're seeing a lot of individual applicants having to bring the part that just affects their property. And that's why we previously had one affecting the previous development, and now we're having this one again, and we'll probably continue to see more as we see more Center City form-based code development, and we still have these alleys in there. So just wanted to mention that about the process, and it is a consideration for applicants needing to develop in there. It's something to keep in mind. So, and with that, usually also the applicant is usually putting that piece of property on tax rolls too. That's an interesting component too, that usually public right-of-ways aren't taxed, but once they become part of their property, they will also be paying tax on that land too, whereas they previously didn't. So that's another thing that may happen as a result. Okay, that was only discussion I had. I don't know if there's any other discussion for that, so.
I have one minor point of discussion. One thought that I have when I see these things is, the way we develop in our culture is we're constantly squeezing out the natural world, and there's very little space for habitat, including insects. I know they're small, but these kinds of alleyways do provide space for habitat. And I'm not saying that I have a good solution to this problem, but I do think this is a problem in our city where we cut our city up into some kind of grid, and then we tell every individual, go develop your portion of the grid, but we don't carve out space to keep the natural world well integrated into the city. So, sorry.
Thank you. Any other discussion for this item? Seeing none, I would take a motion
I make a motion to approve the closure of the right-of-way.
Second that.
and a vote.
You may vote. All votes have been casted, and the motion passes 7-1.
Thank you. Moving to miscellaneous discussion, does staff have any information for the commission?
I do, thank you. I just want to remind everybody, so June Planning Commission meeting will be our first 5:30 meeting. Super excited about that. Just want to remind everybody, 5:30 next time, guys.
Excellent.
Any comments by commissioners? Thank you, Commissioner Jablonski, for pushing that item to the list. I think everybody talked about it, but saying something got it done, so thank you for that. If there's nothing else to come before the commission, I would declare the meeting adjourned. All right, what was the count? Oh, dang it.
It was 30 minutes.
Dang it.